plant the tree, water it, fertilizer like the expert that you are. Can you do that for me? My dad said yes. And then Miss Young says, 3 months from now, when you find another piece of ground, equally as good, dig another hole, transplant that tree, and keep watering, keep taking care of it. Can you do that? My dad gets puzzled and said, well, why did you want to transplant? But okay. And then Miss Young says, in another 3 months, what's more, every 3 months, I want you to dig another hole and keep transplanting that same tree, but you're always going to feed it water, fertilizer. She says, you who are an expert in agriculture, what happens to that tree? My dad does not take long to answer. He knows the answer. He said, well, that's easy, Miss Young. He said, the tree's not going to die, but it's going to grow up to be a weak tree. And if it's a fruit tree, it's probably not going to bear fruit because it's so weak. You're going to stunt its growth. It's going to stay. Why? Because you're moving the tree around. The roots are not growing deep. A tree needs to have deep roots for the branches to grow big and strong. He even raises his hands, big and strong. And you can count to 2 seconds when he realizes that that example was what he was doing to his kids. He lowers his hands, and to his credit, because he's a machista first class, to his credit, he looks at Miss Young and says, is that what you mean? Miss Young says, yes, that's what I mean. And she excused herself, thanked my mom for dinner, and she said, I think I'm done here. And from that day on, we still went to Mexico every year, but the trip got shortened to 3 weeks centered around Christmas vacation. On our way back, we only went to one place, Stockton, California. And that's what we called home, Stockton, California. All of a sudden, our education started to get traction. We started to do well in school, but I was still coming from a farm working family, living at or near poverty. So many people say, well then how the heck do you dream you want to become an astronaut, coming from a socially, economic disadvantaged position that you find yourself in? I'll tell you, that dream was conceived when I was 10 years old. Back then we had an old black and white TV. Programming got preempted. And they started showing the very last Apollo mission, Apollo 17. And on TV was an astronaut. The very last man who's ever walked on the moon. We haven't been back to the moon since then, since I was 10 years old. And this guy's name is none other than Gene Cernan, Apollo 17. I'm watching him on the black and white TV, listening to him, listening to the reporter, still remember his name, Walter Cronkite, narrating that moonwalk. And then I would go outside and see the moon. Come back inside, see and hear Gene Cernan talk to Mission Control Houston. And I would say, wow, this is what I want to be. I want to be an astronaut. And you know the best thing I